Let's talk about something that most of us were never taught but deal with every day: how to not take things personally. If you want to never feel angry or bothered by anyone, this is where you start. You have to master the art of emotional detachment, not from people, not from life, but from the emotional hooks that people unknowingly toss into your path. This isn't about apathy, it's about clarity. Because the truth is, most of what bothers us about other people isn't really about them. It's about how we interpret their behavior through our own lens of insecurity, fear, or expectation. When someone cuts you off in traffic, disrespects you in a meeting, or sends a passive-aggressive text, the initial sting you feel, that tightness in your chest, that burning response in your gut, isn't coming from them. It's a response in which you feel about yourself and your own ability to construct and keep yourself pure. It's coming from your own interpretation of what that act means about you. That's where the real work begins. And this is where people get it wrong. They focus on changing other people. But let me ask you, how's that working out for humanity? See, we've been taught to tether our peace to things outside of our control. Someone else's tone of voice, someone else's opinion, someone else's behavior, and then we wonder why our emotional state is so fragile. The problem isn't that people are offensive. The problem is that we keep choosing to be offended. And I don't say that to dismiss real injustice. There's a time to speak up. But I'm talking about the everyday irritations, the little things we carry around like emotional debt, allowing someone's passing comment to rent space in our minds for hours or days. That's self-inflicted suffering. The ancient Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Let that sink in. You don't have to turn a rude email into a personal attack. You don't have to turn a cold shoulder into a rejection of your worth. You don't have to turn someone's bad day into your bad day. This is where emotional freedom begins, not in changing what happens, but in changing how we label it." Now, emotional detachment is not suppression. I'm not telling you to pretend you don't feel. I'm saying recognize the feeling, name it, and then interrogate it before you act on it. There's a pause, however small, between stimulus and response. That space is where power lives. Most people never find it. They're on autopilot, someone pushes a button, and boom, they react. But if you can learn to stretch that space, to observe your emotional patterns with curiosity instead of judgment, you start to notice something profound. Most of what agitates you isn't personal at all. You see someone rolling their eyes while you speak in a meeting. Your mind jumps to, "They don't respect me," or "I must sound stupid." But maybe they just got a text about their sick child. Maybe they didn't sleep last night. Maybe their response has nothing to do with you. And even if it was about you, what then? You still get to choose your response. You still get to decide whether you hand over your peace like a gift to someone else's immaturity. Let's go deeper. Why are we so easily rattled by others? Often, it's because we haven't fully owned our sense of worth. When your identity is fragile, it becomes easy to bruise. If someone's comment can shatter your day, they own a piece of you. And here's the truth. No one should have that kind of power. Not a boss, not a parent, not a stranger on the internet. But we give it away, usually without realizing it. This is why detachment is a skill. It's not coldness, it's clarity. It's the ability to see a situation as it is, not through the distorted lens of insecurity or ego. And when you train yourself to pause, to reflect, to question the story your mind is telling you, you begin to take back control. You shift from being emotionally reactive to being emotionally intelligent. You no longer need to be right. You no longer need validation from someone who doesn't even know your full story. And you definitely don't need to internalize every glance, every silence, every offhand remark. People will be who they are. That's one of the few guarantees in life. Some will be kind, some will be thoughtless, some will be amazing, and others will test every ounce of your patience. But once you stop trying to edit who they are and instead focus on mastering your response, the entire game changes. You realize that emotional peace doesn't come from a world that never irritates you. It comes from becoming the kind of person who can't be easily irritated. And yes, this takes practice. You're gonna slip. That's okay. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. The goal is to catch yourself faster each time you get hooked, and to unhook with grace instead of guilt. Every time you do, you build resilience. Every time you let something roll off your back that used to send you spiraling, you grow. And eventually what used to feel personal will start to feel neutral. Not because you don't care, but because you've learned to care more about your peace than your pride. So the next time someone cuts in line, interrupts you mid-sentence, or posts something petty online, try this. Take a breath, step back and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Or is this just another moment to practice the strength of my detachment? Because the most powerful person in the room is never the one who controls others. It's the one who controls themselves. ChatGPT said, let's shift the lens now and talk about something even deeper. Self-awarenessness. If emotional detachment gives us space from others, then self-awareness gives us access to ourselves. And you cannot truly free yourself from anger or irritation until you understand the terrain of your own mind. Most people are walking through life reacting, assuming, defending, without ever stopping to ask why they react the way they do. They think they're responding to others, but in reality, they're responding to unexamined patterns that were formed years ago. And here's the truth. You can't master your peace until you master your own internal wiring. There's a phrase I often come back to, what you don't own, owns you. That applies directly to your emotional state. If you've ever felt triggered by someone's tone, body language, or behavior, seemingly out of proportion to the situation, there's usually something deeper under the surface. And until you slow down enough to investigate, you'll keep reliving the same emotional loops with different faces. You'll keep thinking they are the problem, when in reality, you're just carrying unprocessed material that's asking to be seen. This is where inner stillness comes in. I'm not talking about sitting cross-legged in a cave. I'm talking about the kind of stillness that lets you observe your reaction without becoming your reaction. The kind of stillness that helps you witness your irritation instead of unleashing it. And you don't get there through willpower. You get there through awareness, real awareness, the type that notices, I'm feeling tense right now, or that comment really stung more than it should have, without jumping to blame or defense. The mind loves distraction and noise, but awareness, true awareness, pierces through the noise and asks, what's actually going on here? When you start paying attention to yourself with that kind of curiosity, you'll begin to uncover patterns you didn't know were there. Maybe you realize that when someone interrupts you, it's not just annoying, it makes you feel invisible, like you did as a child when no one listened. Or maybe when someone challenges you, you feel an intense need to prove yourself, because deep down, there's a fear you're not good enough. That's not weakness, that's just unexamined pain. And everyone has it, but not everyone is willing to look at it. The irony is, the more you avoid your inner world, the more others control you. Someone makes a passing remark and suddenly you're spiraling. Someone ignores your message and your mind goes down a rabbit hole of insecurity. Why? Because you're not grounded, you're not anchored in your own awareness, you're trying to find your value in a world that reflects your wounds back at you, and that's a recipe for chronic irritation. But here's the shift. When you cultivate self-awareness, you stop living on emotional autopilot. You stop reacting to every external cue and start choosing your response. That's not just maturity, it's mastery. And it requires you to be honest with yourself. You can't grow through self-deception. You can't become peaceful by pretending you're already there. Growth begins the moment you stop blaming others for your reactions and start owning them. Not in a harsh or critical way, but with compassion, with curiosity, with the willingness to say, there's more to me than this reaction. Let me explore that. Now, I get it. This kind of self-examination can feel uncomfortable. Most people would rather stay busy than sit with their thoughts, but that's exactly why they stay stuck. Stillness doesn't mean inactivity. Stillness is a power move. It's the ability to hold yourself in the tension without immediately reaching for a distraction, a defense, or an emotional outburst. When you can do that, when you can sit with your feelings, name them, and understand them without being consumed by them, anger starts to lose its grip. Irritation loses its urgency. You're no longer being dragged around by your emotions. You're guiding them. And from that place, everything changes. Conversations that used to escalate, de-escalate. People who used to provoke you no longer feel threatening. Even your own thoughts become less chaotic because you've trained your mind to observe before reacting. You become a calm presence in a chaotic world. Not because the world changed, but because you did. This is where true strength lives, not in suppressing emotion, but in understanding it. Not in avoiding conflict, but in approaching it with clarity and calm. And this doesn't mean you'll never feel upset again. You will. You're human. But now you'll recognize it sooner. You'll catch the story your mind is telling you before it becomes a full-blown narrative. And that self-awareness, that quiet, steady presence inside you, becomes your anchor. So if you want to stop being bothered by people, you don't just need better boundaries, you need better insight. So, for me, you need to become a student of your own mind. Sit with your thoughts, question your assumptions, ask yourself, what am I actually feeling here and where's that coming from? And then just pause. Let the answer rise without judgment. Because the only way to master your external world is to first understand your internal one. And once you do that, no one can shake your peace, because your peace is no longer a reaction to the outside. It's a relationship with yourself